So you're going to school now with your siblings, but your sister, you said, was younger than you. What was school like for you?
School, it was an adjustment. Obviously, English not very good, so you didn't quite. You just sat there. Everything went over your head because you didn't quite understand the language at the time. So it took a little bit of adjusting to do. But again, when I got home, Joe would help. I could use probably be isolated because number one, I didn't know anybody, and couldn't rely on Joe on this one because she was younger, probably in the infants, and now I'm in junior. So I was on my own. So yeah, most time I probably spent most time in the playground by myself. But there's always somebody who'll come up and say, hello, what's your name then? You know, and so it just started like that, and it seemed like you always get someone that befriend you, a child, and it wasn't so bad then, and you just got on with it really, until you kind of get more into what school's like in England as opposed to where I was coming from in Jamaica, and you just gravitated, and I spent probably about 2 years in junior. Then I was up into the senior school, where by then you made friends, and then you're trying to understand now that you're not as privileged as the other children because our parents, my dad especially, was very strict. So where you used to have leisure time, there was no leisure time for us, not within the community, and obviously we were church Christians, so we weren't allowed to have friends, not outside, no. Church, and that's it. So any influence from the community, no, it wouldn't be allowed. So that was a difficult one. So as you know, as teenagers growing up, you want to do what your friends do. There would be consequences, obviously. But our dad would say, there's plenty of you here, you don't need any friends. So our playing ground was from the backyard to the entry, and you don't open that entry door to go out. So that's how it was. So I think that's where we just developed such love and affection for each other as siblings. We did everything together. It was great. School years, it was. That is where I found my real name, because you know all Jamaicans have a pet name. So my first day at school was like, getting used to the milk bottles and biscuits that you'd have and the playtime, even though we did it back home, but it was different. And then obviously in England there's few black children, and most of them, the rest is Caucasians. And I remember the teacher doing the roll call, the register, and calling all the names, and she was going, Opal Lewis, and I'm just sitting there doing my own thing. And she's looking around and says, Opal Lewis. And I'm doing my own thing. And she says, well, she looked at me and she says, well, you must be Opal Lewis. You're the only new person in this classroom. I says, no, that's not my name. My name's Patsy. And she says, no, it's Opal Lewis. I says, no, that's not my name. So after school, I went home. I says, Mum, or should I speak it in my language? Mummy, the teacher them say my name is Opal Lewis. And they says, yes, Opal Lewis is your name. And then that was it. I thought all these 9 years I've been called Patsy, and it wasn't my name.
So how did that make you feel about, you know, not just your name, but your identity?
It was a bit difficult to get to, and there was a stigma, because at the time opal fruits was a sweet, and that's where it began. So it was like, the chanting, opal fruits, and that made me hate the name right through to senior school. I just couldn't bear the fact that children could be cruel like that. And they would literally just sing the song. I couldn't tell if I cried, I don't know. But I just hated it at the time. And it was every day. And especially when the boys did it, it was worse. And I grew to hate the name. It followed me into senior school. And I went back to having a fight with one of my other classmates because she decided she's going to sing it. And laughed, and it just got me really angry. And you can imagine playground chanting. Oh, I hated it. I became really. And the one girl said, I said, you call me that again? And it was a fight. And she did. And she called it, and there was a fight. The change came when I started out in the adult world, going for interviews. And they says, ooh, what a beautiful name. I thought, really? And everywhere went, oh, this is a beautiful name. And I embraced that name. And today, I don't tell anybody, I don't accept. If they say, Pat, I'm sorry, my name is Opal. And so, but we know, I says, no, my name is Opal. Patsy was Patsy. This is me, and I'm Opal. So this is Opal. And I'm a gem. And yeah. And the song used to say, opal fruits make your mouth water. And I look at me and I says, I love me. I love Opal. And that is who you see sitting before you. And I'm proud of me. And we'll continue to pursue this Opal. Yeah, so yes, beautiful name. Love it. Our dad was very protective over us. And I think probably it's because of what they experienced in the early days, and it was their way of keeping us safe as well. So as you get older, you kind of understand some of the logistics of why things happened the way it did. So, yeah, so, you know, discos and all that, yeah, could try, you know, but like I said, there was consequences. If I did sneak out, my dad would come and find me. So he'd know, oh, she's up at the school, and yeah, disco's happening, and I hope she's kind of, you know, getting in the mood with the friends and having a laugh. And then they'd say, oh, your dad's coming. And my dad was that kind of a dad. He didn't care where, he would come and he would find. And yep, you go home, and there were consequences, and that was it. Oh, my dad was a very tall man with the biggest hands, and that's my dad was, yeah. And he was a fast runner as well. But, you know, you get older, you understand why he behaved the way he did, and it kind of shapes and molds you. Later on, you kind of understand it. Didn't enjoy it then, but then you realise what discipline was, and obviously I wasn't used to any of that when I was younger back home, and so this was all new to tolerate. And you lived in a home that all your siblings, and by that time there were more siblings. I would say there was probably another 3 siblings.
Okay.
And then by the time I finished, there was another one. So altogether, it was 13 of us. But I look at my dad, and he did what he did. And to be quite honest, I would say he's my hero. And the reason I'm saying that is the house was small, and he worked very hard. My mum never worked because she had all of us to take care of at home. And he bought the most beautiful home for us. He alone worked, and he bought the biggest house to house all his children, and I take my hats off to him.
When did you get the opportunity to go back to Jamaica?
Went back several times, and at that point I was so grateful that what they did, bringing us to the UK, because going back, you see that the things are just the same as it was then when you left. And hadn't they done that for us, we would have been in that same position. So, yeah.
What was it about that trip that made you see your life differently?
It helped shape me into the woman that I am today. Because of my dad, I look at my dad and I always says, when a man, any man, you know, that comes, he buys a house for his family, that's a good man.
So looking back then, Opal, how do you feel this experience has influenced your relationships, how you see your life now?
I would describe myself now as a very professional woman, confident, and enjoy life. And also with my own children, let them know that you can be anyone or anything you want to be. Nobody stops you but yourself.
And what would you want to say to your future generations, your children, your grandchildren, to help them understand your experience, but also how they should see their own lives?
I can remember when I just got married, we booked our honeymoon, booked the hotel, everything, and we got there, we arrived, and they looked at us, oh no, you didn't book with us. And they sent us to a different hotel, contacted another hotel. I said, so I can, but by then, not being open to racism or understanding that, you just thought, oh, okay. And it wasn't until later on in life you realise, oh my goodness, that was a form of racism then. With the grandchildren and my own children, the awareness that this does happen. And so therefore, you just have to be yourself. Some things you can't just jump into it to defend it. It is what it is. So you have to learn to manage yourself, and it's there just to have that awareness and to just, if you want to get on in life, just go for your goals, set your goals. Don't let anything hold you back. And that's how I am with my children and my grandchildren, for them to be independent. They're very, very good. Very good. I have a good, loving family and my own family and loads of little grandchildren. And they're aware that they have to, unfortunately, work harder than their counterpart and, you know, to get to where they want to get to in life, but let no one stop them.
How did you feel emotionally growing up in this bigger family?
I don't think there would be anything I would change, because I grew up not knowing my mum and dad to a degree, my primary years, and it was what it was then. And coming here to the UK, finding my mum and dad and my extended siblings, and I would say that I always say to people, we're like a cluster of grapes, because you see one, somebody says, oh, your sister's up there. Next thing you know, there's 4 of us walking together with very, very loving, caring family, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And my children and grandchildren and my siblings, the family, we're very much like that. Yeah, so I wouldn't, there's nothing I would want to change, because I now understand what took place, and so therefore there was nothing I'd really want to change, to be quite honest. You know, it shapes you and makes you into who you are.